Just remember that it's our desires, I want, I like, I don't want, I don't like, that tends to drive our relationships. When I want, I like matches and you are in the same place with that, we do great. When I like, I don't like doesn't match with you, we clash because it's clashing with your I like, I don't like. So if I want and you don't want, we will have a problem. If I want and you want the same thing, we do great. And we have to learn that that's not, well, first of all, we have to learn that that is the problem. And second of all, we got to learn that we have to find a way to adjust that so that we can actually not have strife all the time. And by the way, if you're married, you know exactly what I'm talking about because that's where all of your fighting comes from. It all comes from preferences not matching. You're acting like the world. That's what he's really saying here. When he says friendship with the world. In other words, when you do things like the world, you tend to act like and be like your friends. Most successful people out there, coaches, will say, I can learn so much about you. Just let me spend some time with the 3 people you spend most time with, and I'll know a lot about you. Because you will tend to be like them. We are very influenced by the people we spend most of our time with. And if you don't like where you're at, maybe you need to spend time with different people. I'm not picking on who you're spending time with. But if you want to elevate in whatever part of your life from where you are to a higher level, the people you're with are the people that got you to the level you're at now. We're supposed to be slaves to Elohim, servants of the Most High. But you can't claim that and not subject yourself to that authority. You know, in kingdoms, they called the people their subjects. The king had subjects. The people were his subjects because they were to submit or subject themselves to the king. Here we're being told to do it voluntarily. We're being told to volunteer. I know that sounds a little weird, but we're being told that that is to our benefit. So it's really an admonition. It's an encouragement. Because he gives greater favor for those that are humble, he says, so then subject yourselves to Elohim and resist the devil. So why would he say resist the devil? Because who was the first one to choose not to subject himself? The devil. So he says, if you are going to subject yourself, you are acting Yeshua-like. Understand this. You all have freedom of choice. You can get whatever you think is pleasure out of this life as much as you want, as strongly as you want, but then it may only be this life that you get. I mean, you may think that certain things taste good that you're not allowed to eat. You may think certain actions should be allowable that he says you're not allowed to do. Well, go ahead and do them all you want, knowing that this is it, so you better enjoy it all you can and whatever you think is pleasure. My experience, and I'm 58 years old now, okay, so I have quite a bit of experience, not like when I first started ministry and I was 35 years old, but at 58 years old, I got quite a bit of experience to tell you that the pleasures that I got doing worldly things always had a bad aftertaste, always left you with a hangover, so to speak, sometimes literally. Whereas the pleasures doing things Yah's way never leaves you with any of that. It only is good. How do you draw near? You know, the idea of offerings, of sacrifice, actually has in the Hebrew the idea of drawing near, okay? And so you sacrifice you lay down on the altar the you stuff, and that draws you near. You seek after, you approach, and you draw near. All right, you draw near. He says, and then he shall draw near to you. Now people say, oh, but it says none comes as the Father draws. That's true. That's the initial starting of the process. He's not talking to first-time, brand-new people that were 5 seconds ago in the world. He says, this is written to those of the 12 tribes in dispersion. That's chapter 1 and verse 1. He's talking to people that are aware of much more than just brand-new, bubble-popped, individual. So I want you to be aware when things are happening, whose opinion, whose feelings is primary in your thoughts about protecting, including yourself. Well, they're all going to hate me. Well, now you're trying to protect your own feelings because you don't want people to hate you. Well, then my daughter won't ever talk to me again. Well, now you're worried about your feelings and hers. But are we not putting Yahweh first? What is he going to feel about your decision? Is he going to be disappointed? Who are you wanting to protect from disappointing? Go back to the fear of Yahweh teaching, where it's all about, if you have a proper fear of Yahweh, only being concerned with disappointing him. Other people may get disappointed along the line, and that's not what you want, but it is what it is. It's going to happen. But I want you to be much more aware of yourself. Whose feelings are you protecting? So he says, lament and mourn and weep, let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to dejection. Humble yourselves in the sight of the master, and he shall lift you up. So what is he saying here? We'll put it in modern day terms. Get a good cry over it because you're sad that you're not going to get it your way. Humble yourselves, and he'll lift you up. Because some of you loved your whatever unclean food you loved, okay? Fill in the blank. Some of you love shrimp or catfish or whatever. You loved it. And now you had to give it up. He said, that's okay. Lament and mourn and weep. Because it's sad for a human being to give up something that gave them so much pleasure. And you got so much joy. But it wasn't appropriate. It wasn't the right type. He says, but then you humble yourself. And then he says he'll lift you up. Be careful that you're wrapping too much of your focus on your life in this place, but to make sure it's in the context of what he's doing in your life in this place. And so he just says, look, it's not about so you choose to move here, you choose to start this kind of business, he wants you to be as successful as you want to be. As long as you don't start thinking it's all about you and losing track of who's allowing all this and inspiring it and giving you skills and talents, etc. He says, instead, you should be saying, if the master desires. In other words, does this match up with his desires? This is not the prayer saying, I want to get a fleece out there to see if he wants me to get this business, this job. I'm going to change the way you see this verse. He's saying, look, instead you should be saying, is what I'm doing matching the desires of the master? Whoever turns a sinner from the straying of his way. What is the context of sinner here? Everybody and anybody in the world? No. The context of sinner here is those in the body who should know better, who, by the way, you witnessed, if you're doing it today in MTOI, make certain declarations. By the way, you could do this to husbands and wives too. If you've been to a wedding and heard them make a bunch of vows and all kinds of wonderful sounding things, and then they're all killing each other, you can walk over and say, by the way, I was there and heard what you said or what you said. What about that? And so these are people that made declarations of covenant to obey and submit to the voice of Yahweh. And he's saying you may want to sit down with them and encourage them to fix that or to get them to leadership to fix that. I'm telling you that you need to fully understand and have a lot of empathy and patience with the fact that nobody who hasn't had their little bubble popped understood a word of verse 1 and 2. They think they did. They understood it in their Christian way or their worldly way, whatever it was. But he's saying, as we announce it to you, what we have seen and what we have heard, so that you can have fellowship with us. And let's understand, as he keeps going forward, he's going to give us details of what that means. But in order to have fellowship, because everybody thinks, well, we aren't the Christians also in fellowship with us? No. You can go down the road to another congregation where they believe that. That's fine. We don't believe that. We'd like to believe that we will have fellowship with all of them, as well as all the people in the world that are just doing worldly things. That one day they'll all have their bubble popped, make a choice, and have fellowship with him, because that is first, and then fellowship with us because of their fellowship with him. That is what he's talking about here.